Polaris Elementary and Julie's kindergarten class was a great experience to take part in this semester. My teaching partner and I learned a lot about the student artists, ourselves, and effective and not so effective teaching approaches. Throughout our time at Polaris, we made many significant improvements, and my confidence from our first lesson continued to grow along the way. I can undoubtedly say that my knowledge of teaching and all that is included with running a lesson has considerably grown. Not only were the studio habits included in my students' experiences, but were a large part of my experience as well. After Polaris, I have a better appreciation for teaching and have come out of this experience with a greater understanding and a lot of new tools to add to my tool bag. Some of our biggest struggles that we saw early on in our lessons dealt with class management, planning and effective instruction, and the learning environment. Within each of these categories arose problems we encountered during our lessons. These situations force us to reflect on our teaching strategies and often reevaluate our goals or direction of the lesson and teaching. This provided a good opportunity to engage and persist in our teaching. We did not let our struggles discourage us, but instead worked together to understand problems and create solutions. We worked collaboratively with changing ideas and getting advice from our peers, Patrick and Julie. An example of our constant evaluation and revision can be seen with our unit plan and how much it changed along the way. I think one of the first problems we encountered with class management was making sure all the students' works had names. After our paint exploration lesson, we had to look back through our documentation or try to remember who created each work. This was a detail we overlooked, but made sure to plan this step better in our future lessons. We also quickly learned which students did and did not work well if seated together. Julie did not have specific seats for the students, so when setting up for our lessons, we would also plan where each student would sit to make sure they were able to keep focus and engage in the activities without being distracted. This was a seemingly small detail, but made a big difference in how the students worked. Another area I felt I individually improved in with regards to class management was how I communicated with the students. Julie established strict expectations with them, and after observing her class and gaining confidence, I felt more comfortable addressing the students about their behavior in a professional and respectful way. Sometimes it was as simple as asking a student to relocate, but it helped students refocus and my class management improved. This semester, I learned a lot about our planning and instruction. Before this class, I had never written a lesson plan and was new to much of the material. Creating a well-crafted lesson was not an easy task at the beginning. This was an area where my understanding greatly improved, and as the semester continued, I was able to generate more effective and detailed lesson plans, which improved my teaching. Another struggle we encountered in our planning and instruction dealt with age appropriateness. After our first class, we realized our lesson was too advanced to begin with. After reflecting on our goals and directions, we made changes that improved our lessons and helped our students grow. We incorporated using shapes to help our students draw more complex forms, and this became a common theme in our future lessons. Because our students were not yet able to read and write consistently, we relied heavily on discussion to help students express and reflect on their work. In the early lessons, I caught myself saying, "I like that," or "that looks nice," which was not an effective way to communicate with the students. I got better in following lessons with how I communicated and instead followed my comments with a question or asked for more explanation in their work. Asking questions allowed for more collaborative reflection and expression. We also incorporated this to help students engage and persist if they finished early or were stuck. When students discussed their work, I'd ask questions that allowed them to think more deeply. In our clay creature lesson, when students created their habitats for their animal, the more questions I asked about their creature, the more ideas it sparked, and they would get excited and continue working. One of the biggest improvements in our instruction that enhanced our lessons was modeling. Earlier on, we assumed too often the students would understand what was expected, and by doing this, we did not set them up for success and our activities were less effective. Julie discussed this with us on several occasions and how we needed to model everything. One example was our first gallery walk exercise. Instead of modeling to students what it should look like and how to act, we just told them to do a gallery walk. This resulted in students being loud, distracted, and hurrying through the exercise. By modeling the exercise the next time, the activity became more effective and fun for the students. We even let them ooh and ah at the art. We made sure moving forward to pay more attention to those small details and model behaviors and instructions we wanted to see. Putting more consideration and planning into materials was also a good learning experience. One of our unsuccessful lessons was largely due to poor planning and our material choice. The materials did not work like expected, and the lesson did not go as planned. Choosing colored pencils as our medium was also a poor decision in our instruction. The students were not excited about the medium, and all had used it before many times. We quickly learned that if the students were excited about the medium, they would be more involved. In our very next lesson, we took this into account and provided the students with colorful foam, pom-poms, yarn, and other found objects to create masks. Students were intrigued and excited about the materials, and in this lesson, everyone was participating and worked all the way until recess, not wanting to stop. We also made improvements in our learning environment. One of the first areas we struggled with here was engaging the entire class. It was difficult to not give more attention to certain students, or would easily get stuck helping one person for a long time and become oblivious to what was going on with the rest of the class around us. We did a better job recognizing when we were focusing too much on one individual as we continued teaching. Julie told us that we needed to focus on not just one tree, but the entire forest. We improved on being aware of the whole class and walking around and engaging each student at different times during the lesson. If one student was stuck, I would problem solve with them and tell them to work for a little, and I would check back in, so I was not getting stuck with giving them all of my attention. The last big improvement we made was creating parts to our lesson. We started repeating steps and created a routine and better flow. After our first lessons, we began repeating our system, which began with a class discussion. Next, students explored the medium in their sketchbooks, they regrouped for discussion and demos, and then the students created their work. It became a familiar system and helped them be productive and work towards their goal. I think the most rewarding part was seeing the exhibition at the end and all the progress the students made. There were a lot of students who showed huge growth in their work and comfort level from the first lesson to our last. These images show one student's first project followed by his succeeding lessons, and it's great to see how much he improved from his first day. Looking back at the entire process, all the improvements made along the way helped shape our lessons and allowed us to continue to apply our developing knowledge to better our teaching. I was very proud of what our students accomplished and what I accomplished in my growth as a teacher. This was a truly rewarding experience, and although I have much more to learn, I am excited to further my development and continue to put into practice my new knowledge.